What you feel isn't your fault. It's the sound of the old world breaking apart. This discomfort in your chest, the feeling that everything is a thin performance, isn't the beginning of your madness, but the collapse of collective madness. I've observed this pattern. Normal life is a set of instructions, a program designed for a purpose that no longer exists. It's obsolete code, and you, at your core, have begun processing an update. That's why everything hurts. The friction between the old program and the new operating system emerging in your consciousness creates this exhaustion. You're not tired of work. You're exhausted from executing a code that contradicts your nature. The survival script, wake up, produce, consume, repeat, has become self-abandonment. It promised order through conformity, a clear path to happiness. But the purpose for which it was written has vanished. The script runs on empty. The actions remain. The meaning has evaporated. And you, the more sensitive, are the first to smell the burning of this engine. You look in the mirror, and your reflection seems like a stranger, an actor who feels the emptiness of performance. He recites the social lines, seeks the programmed rewards, paycheck, praise, acceptance. But the reward, when it arrives, rings like metal in a void. It doesn't fulfill. This actor is a master of social camouflage, but this mastery has come at a cost. Vital energy. Constant performance drains your strength, for it requires you to repress your true impulses. You spend your energy maintaining the mask, living a life that isn't yours. The value system has crumbled. It promised security through obedience. You obeyed, but the promise wasn't fulfilled. The mechanism of obedience remains, and you ask yourself, was it me who failed, or is the life they sold me flawed? I affirm the second option. The map you were given doesn't match the territory. And your fatigue is the compass that points out this discrepancy. The map promised flat terrain, but you're in a jungle. Following the map is dangerous. What I call value creation begins precisely here. It begins the moment you stop blaming yourself for your inability to feel happy within a sick structure. True value is not born of conformity, but of the courage to face this dissonance. It is the act of stopping in the middle of the jungle, crumpling up the useless map, and daring to look at the real territory for the first time. And amor fati, the love of destiny, is not a passive acceptance of suffering. It is not resignation. It is the active acceptance that is suffering, this friction, this dissonance is your working material. It's the fire needed to forge something new. Loving your destiny, right now, is loving this feeling of being broken, because that brokenness is the only opening through which reality can finally enter. It's looking at your exhaustion and discomfort not as evidence of your failure, but as the blunt tools of your liberation. The old program wants you to hate this feeling, to medicate it, to silence it. Amor fati demands that you listen to it, that you honor it as the messenger of truth. Normalcy is an invisible prison, an architecture of consensus that persists not because it's true, but because it's comfortable. It offers ready-made answers to questions no one has dared to ask. It offers an instruction manual for a life that doesn't need to be lived, only executed. The comfort it offers is the comfort of a warm cell, where you don't have to make real decisions, just follow the schedule. You've been taught to fear chaos, to fear the unknown, to fear silence. Because in silence, the noise of the failing program becomes deafening. The old program operates in constant noise, distractions, the incessant flow of information, the consumption, the social drama, the frantic pursuit of productivity are designed to drown out this sound. They're the prison's ventilation system, ensuring enough air circulates so you don't realize you're confined. But you can't distract yourself anymore. You hear the static. You see the glitch in reality. You're at a party, surrounded by laughter, and suddenly, everything freezes. You see the mouths moving, but the sound disappears. You see the performance. You see the desperation behind the forced joy. When you see people desperately racing toward goals you know are empty, you don't feel envy, you feel cold compassion. You see them as processes running in an infinite loop, oblivious to their own exhaustion. They still believe in the ghost. They still believe that the next promotion, the next purchase, the next validation will finally deliver the promised meaning. Your problem is that you've stopped believing. You've seen behind the curtain. And what you saw wasn't a magician, but just grinding gears. You saw that the prize everyone is racing for is made of cardboard. This realization is the first stage. It's the diagnosis. And yes, it's lonely. When you start questioning the script, the world, which depends on that script for its stability, reacts. It will try to convince you that the problem is you. You're overthinking. You need to relax. You're becoming negative. What they really mean is, your lucidity is threatening my comfort. Please go back to sleep. They need you to go back to pretending, because your pretense validated theirs. Your performance was part of the pact. Normalcy is a tacit agreement not to ask difficult questions. By stopping acting, you expose the stage. You become a mirror reflecting the emptiness everyone else desperately tries to ignore. And this is seen as a betrayal. They don't accuse you of being wrong. They accuse you of being weird, isolated, difficult. It's the immune system of normalcy, trying to neutralize the anomaly. They will try to pathologize your clarity, calling it depression, anxiety, or social maladjustment. They will do this to protect their own sanity, to avoid having to confront the possibility that the problem isn't with you, but with the very world they've built. But I tell you, accept your anomaly. It is your dignity. It is proof that your soul has not been completely tamed. This daily ritual of self-abandonment, this framework of normalcy, is no longer your size. You have outgrown it. What you feel as pain is actually the pain of growing. It is the old shell that refuses to give way, while something new and truer forces its way through. The mold is cracking. And the most perverse thing is not the pain of the crack. It is the world's attempt to convince you to glue the pieces back together, to pretend the structure is still intact. They offer you more distraction, more anesthesia, more empty promises. They offer you an improved normality, a prison with prettier windows, faster internet. But you know it is still a prison. You know that a change of scenery does not change the prisoner's condition. The first act of courage is simple, yet brutal. It's stopping pretending. It's allowing yourself to sit in the midst of discomfort without naming it, without trying to fix it, without apologizing for it. It's looking at the world and saying, perhaps only silently, I don't believe in this script anymore. You don't need a new script yet. You just need to stop reading the old one. That's ground zero. From here, you stop being an exhausted actor and begin, very slowly, to become the author. But to do so, you must first accept the emptiness of the blank page. You must accept that the me you thought you were, the me that was a collection of learned responses, social performances, and internalized fears, is actually the first thing that must be abandoned. This me is the very embodiment of the old program. It is the ghost in the machine, and liberation requires an exorcism. This is the real terror and the real liberation. The system is not just outside. He is in there. It's the voice in your head that judges your discomfort. It's the fear of falling behind. It's the guilt of not being grateful enough. It's the anxiety of not being productive. And the first step to dismantling the external prison is to stop policing yourself on its behalf. It's to stop being your own jailer. You must learn to observe this internal voice as the echo of the obsolete program, not as your truth. This excess of lucidity, this collapse of the obvious, is not an abstract theory. I see it manifesting itself in your daily life. It's in the 5-second hesitation before you answer the phone for a call you know will drain your energy. In that brief moment, you weigh truth, your desire for silence, against performance, your social obligation. And each time performance wins, you die a little. It's in your gaze wandering out the window during a meeting, searching for something real. The cloud, the tree, the flight of a bird, anything. While voices discuss numbers that mean nothing. You're physically in the room, but your soul is outside, seeking fresh air. It's in the fatigue that invades you not at the end of a hard day's work, but in the middle of a trivial conversation, a superficial dialogue that your mind processes as white noise, as pure static. You've learned to smile and nod while inside, your mind is calculating the escape route. This isn't antisocial, it's an allergic reaction to superficiality. Your soul, this entity programmed to seek depth and connection, is being fed plastic, and it has begun to reject the nourishment. The nausea is physical. The smile becomes a painful grimace. Your body begins to protest the lie your social mind forces you to swallow. The performance society is the logic of the factory applied to human existence. It has told you that you are a project to be optimized. Your body, your mind, your relationships, your free time, everything must be productive. Everything must generate a return. You can't simply rest. You must engage in optimized rest. You can't simply chat. You must network. You can't simply exist. You must be growing or adding value. And failure is no longer seen as part of the process of living, as the necessary soil for growth, but as a personal sin, a failure of management. You have become your own manager, and it's a cruel manager, demanding constant performance. You whip yourself with to-do lists, productivity apps, and the tyranny of, "I could be doing more." Fatigue, therefore, is not allowed. Sadness is a bug. Doubt is inefficiency. And you try to fix these states with more performance, more wellness apps, more self-help books, more optimization. But you're trying to optimize the wrong program. You're trying to be a better worker in the factory that's killing you. Your exhaustion isn't a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you're successfully resisting becoming a machine. Your exhaustion is your humanity struggling to breathe. I watch you inhabit this ruined theater. You wake up, and the first sensation is not of rest, but of debt. You already start the day in debt for energy, in debt for smiles, in debt for productivity. The modern world, with its endless distractions, doesn't just numb boredom or sadness, it numbs life itself. It has robbed you of the right to silence, to the empty space where real feelings can emerge. Because real feelings are inefficient. They hinder production. A real feeling, grief, righteous anger, deep love, demands time. It demands pause. And the system doesn't allow pauses. What the system wants aren't human beings. It wants functional avatars. It wants updated profiles, not deep souls. And you're tired of being an avatar. You miss yourself. This nostalgia for yourself is the deepest pain. You miss the person you were before you learned to optimize yourself, before you learned to sell yourself, before you learned to trade integrity for acceptance. You miss the days when you could spend an entire afternoon staring at the clouds, guilt-free. You miss the ability to feel something fully, without immediately trying to analyze it, fix it, or publish it. Think about your routine. It's not solid ground, it's quicksand. Every notification is a tiny grain of sand. Every social demand, every unspoken expectation, every alarming news. Alone, they are insignificant. But together, they slowly suffocate you. You're smiling in the crowd, but inside, you scream. What's broken isn't life. It's your ability to lie to yourself about it. You've realized that life isn't difficult. It's unbearably superficial. The problem isn't suffering. The problem is suffering useless. Some thinkers have intuited that we need suffering, but suffering that has meaning. The suffering that sculpts us, that forces us to grow. The suffering of climbing a mountain, of mastering an art, of loving someone deeply. The modern world doesn't offer you that. It offers you stress. Stress is suffering devoid of meaning. It's the friction of a poorly oiled machine. It's the pain of running an obsolete program on exhausted hardware. It's suffering you didn't choose, suffering for goals you don't believe in. Normal life, this program, subtly shapes you. It steals your voice, not all at once, but a decibel a day. It starts with small compromises, little white lies. Yes, I'm fine. Sure, I can do this. No, it doesn't bother me. You deny your own feelings to maintain social peace. You become a peacekeeper who lacks inner peace. You swallow your anger, your sadness, your no. And each swallowed emotion becomes a small poison in your system. You convince yourself that the emptiness you feel is maturity or realism. This is what adulthood is like, you tell yourself. But emptiness is not maturity. I'll tell you what it is. It's the stifled scream of a soul that has been placed in a dark basement, tamed by the lack of light. At first, it screamed and banged on the door, but no one heard. Then it stopped screaming, and now only mumbles. And this mumbling is your chronic anxiety. It's your inexplicable fatigue. It's your inability to feel genuine joy in the things that should bring you joy. It's the feeling of being dead inside, even as your body keeps moving. The amor fati here is having the courage to descend into that basement. It's stopping pretending you don't hear the murmuring. It's opening the locked door, even though you're terrified of what you'll find inside. It's looking at what you've tamed, at that wild, hungry, and true part of yourself. It's sitting in the dark with that hungry soul and asking, what do you really need? And the answer will be terrifying. It won't ask for a new car, a better job, or more followers. It will ask for things the normal world considers dangerous. Silence, time, truth, real connection, nature, and the right to be, rather than do. It will ask you to stop lying. And that is the most revolutionary demand of all. Because if you stop lying, the entire social house of cards around you will begin to tremble. Your relationships based on performance, your work based on conformity, your identity based on external validation. All of this is built on the premise that you now would go down to the basement. This is the mystery. Why don't others seem to feel it? They do. But the cost of admitting it is, for them, too high. They've chosen anesthesia. They've chosen to believe that the murmuring is just tiredness or stress, and that one more coffee, one more series, or one more purchase will make it quiet. You, for some reason, perhaps grace, perhaps accident, have developed a tolerance to the sedative. You're waking up in the middle of your own surgery. The pain is unbearable, but there's an unexpected twist. For the first time, you're truly aware of what's happening. You're awake. Let me explain what this sensitivity is that the world diagnoses as weakness. It's not fragility. It's a high-definition data processing system. Where others see a simple social interaction, you see the entire subtext. You process body language, the tone of voice, the hesitation, the micro-expression of fear behind the arrogance, the desperation behind the forced smile. You process not just what's said, but everything that, no, it's said. You're operating with a much higher than average information bandwidth. While most people process reality in low resolution, focused only on the functional surface of interactions, you process it in 4K. You see the cracks in the mask, the dust under the rug, the truth leaking through the edges of the performance. And this is metabolically expensive. It drains your resources. What the world calls being overly sensitive is actually being chronically overwhelmed by an excess of irreconcilable data. Your sensitivity isn't a defect. It's a perfectly functioning radar in a world that constantly lies. You're the only tuned instrument in an out-of-tune orchestra. And the dissonant sound is deafening to you. Normality is toxic to you not because it is inherently bad, but because it is inconsistent. It's a system of contradictory rules. It tells you, be authentic, but also, be like us. It tells you, follow your passion, but also, pay your bills. It tells you, be vulnerable, but don't be weak. It tells you, take care of yourself, but be available 24/7. Your mind, which seeks logical patterns and integrity, can't compute these contradictions. It freezes. The collapse of the obvious is your internal system rejecting this corrupted code. You can no longer convince yourself that everything is okay, because your sensors tell you at maximum volume that nothing okay. You prefer the honesty of a gray morning to the plastic euphoria of a party, because the gray morning is consistent. It is what it is. The party is a performance of joy that isn't there. You prefer the honest pain of a real failure to the empty joy of a manufactured success. Your soul yearns for coherence, and normality is the celebration of incoherence. If you process twice as much information, why do you expect to feel half as tired as others? Why do you blame yourself for needing more silence, more solitude, more time to decompress? You're digesting reality on a much deeper level. While others only skim the surface, you're swallowing and metabolizing the entire experience. You need more time to digest. Your retreat isn't an escape from the world. It's a need to process the excess world you've absorbed. You're not hiding. You're healing from overexposure. You're trying to find a place quiet enough to finally hear your own thoughts, instead of the endless echoes of others' expectations. Amor fati, here, is an act of radical sovereignty. It's about stopping trying to dumb down your sensors to fit in. It's about stopping drinking the poison of social anesthesia so you can sit at the table with those who are comfortably sedated. Accepting your fate, here, is accepting the burden of your own clarity. And yes, that makes you dangerous. As Nietzsche said, what doesn't shock isn't worth remembering. And what could be more shocking than an individual who stops pretending? Who looks at society's pact of pretense and silently says, no? You become a threat not because of what you do, but because of what you do. And his mere presence, in its quiet authenticity, exposes the falseness of others. They will see him as arrogant. He thinks he's better than us. Judgmental. He's analyzing everything. Or depressed. He doesn't know how to have fun. But what they feel is the terror of seeing someone who has escaped the cell they still inhabit. His freedom is an insult to their prison. This feeling of psychic exile, of walking among people but feeling like your soul is packed, is a direct consequence. Your body inhabits the now, but your consciousness has already moved to a place where integrity is possible. You're not depressed, you're at odds. It's a silent strike of the soul. You're at odds with the values, the frenetic rhythms, the masks everyone has agreed to wear. This discord, which they call weakness or illness, is your most refined form of hearing. You're hearing a music they don't hear. You're picking up on a frequency that the static of normality has muffled for most. You're picking up on the call of the invisible. This call is your own unlived life, begging for your attention. What would you do if you accepted that your perception is correct and that the consensus is, in fact, fundamentally flawed? That your sensitivity is not a bug, but the only reliable navigational tool you have left? You would stop trying to fix yourself. You would stop trying to fit into a broken system. I'll tell you what happens. You start to withdraw. Not out of anger, but out of a need for self-preservation. You start seeking silence. You start conserving your energy, treating it as the sacred resource it is. You stop wasting it on interactions that are transactionally empty. You become a fierce guardian of your own inner space. This isn't isolation, it's withdrawal. This is the chrysalis moment. The caterpillar, to become a butterfly, doesn't add wings. It dissolves completely. It becomes a primordial soup inside the cocoon. It unravels. What you're feeling now is this dissolution. You feel like you're losing your identity, your friends, your career. You are. You're losing the caterpillar identity. You're in the cocoon. And the world, which only understands caterpillars, productivity, and butterflies, visible success, doesn't understand the chaotic, dark, and immobile process of transformation. They pound on your cocoon and scream, "Get out of there! Be productive! Be normal!" What if this exile isn't a punishment, but a necessary quarantine period so that your new role can be compiled without corruption? The process is solitary because it must be. It cannot be contaminated by the opinions, fears, and expectations of the old system. The new architecture must be built in a clean environment. You are being called not by gurus, not by books, but by the deepest part of yourself that knows, you know the world screams to hide its emptiness. You know performative joy is a veneer. You know there's something terribly wrong with the way we trade life for efficiency. This call pulls you inward, and the more you try to fit into the external world, the more the internal call hurts, because the call isn't for you to adapt to the world. It's for you to finally awaken to yourself, so you can eventually help anchor a new world. You begin to miss home, but it's a home you've never seen. A home of real conversations, of true gestures, of slow time. This nostalgia is the memory of your own authentic self. It's your soul remembering what it's like to be whole. The world applauds those who adapt, but history is changed by those who awaken. Some say that hell is other people. I say that hell is being among others and having lost touch with yourself. The process of finding yourself again is lonely, but it is the only way out of hell. Heaven, then, is this silent reconnection. But what is this call of the unseen that draws you into this solitary cocoon? Let me articulate what this force is. It is not a mystical voice from outside. It is a fundamental biological and psychic impulse for totality. Your mind, body, and spirit are tired of living fragmented. You've been split into pieces by the old program: the professional self, the family self, the social self, each with a different set of masks and rules. What you feel is a violent desire to reunite these fragments. To become one, the invisible is simply the vast territory of your own consciousness that has been repressed by the culture of normality. It's the 99% of reality that the social program ignores: intuition, deep feeling, connection with nature, the need for meaning, the awareness of death. Normal life is a small spotlight focused on productivity and distraction, pretending the immense darkness around you doesn't exist. But you've begun to sense the presence of this vastness. The spotlight is no longer enough. You want to know what lies in the darkness. This desire is the call. Life can be seen as a musical number. Most are desperate to get the choreography right, hoping for the audience's approval. They don't even realize they hate the music. Your awakening is this: you stopped in the middle of the stage, heard the music for the first time, and realized it was dissonant, repetitive, and soulless. You don't just understand the farce, you understand it. Feel at a cellular level. You smell the sham. The smell of dust and decay beneath the cheap perfume of performance. You see people chasing goals: more money, more status, more validation, and you see them as people dying of thirst as they desperately try to hoard empty water bottles. They've confused the symbol with the substance. They believe the bottle, the symbol of success, is the water, the meaning. Your calling is your unquenchable thirst for the substance. You no longer want the bottles, you want the water. Even if it comes from a muddy, hidden source, you prefer real water to the pretty, empty plastic container. I see you begin to hear this call, not with your ears, but with your chest. It's a pressure, a feeling of emptiness that isn't an absence, but a presence of something that should be there. It's your own soul taking up space, pushing out the accumulated lies. It's expanding. And in the nose, she knows the world screams to hide what it doesn't want to feel. She knows that performative joy is a thin veneer over chronic sadness. She knows there's something terribly wrong with a system that teaches you to be efficient instead of real. And this call, pulling you inward, hurts when you try to ignore it. It's not an invitation to adapt, it's a summons to wake up. It's an awakening to the fact that we trade meaning for security and end up with neither. We trade depth for speed. We trade connection for connectivity. We trade being for having. And the result is a wealth of possessions and a poverty of spirit. The surprising fact is not that so many of us are anxious or depressed. The surprising fact is that somebody still get no being. Maintaining sanity in a system that has normalized incoherence is the true act of madness. Your malaise is a sign of health. It's your body rejecting the poison. And then you start to feel this strange nostalgia. Nostalgia for slow conversations. Nostalgia for days without screens. Nostalgia for work your hands can feel. Nostalgia for silence. You're not missing the past. You're missing you're missing a human rhythm. You realize that the modern routine wasn't designed for humans. It was designed for gears. And you're not a gear. You're a living organism, and you're hungry for life. Your body craves real movement, not a treadmill. Your mind craves real silence, not white noise. Your soul craves real connection, not a social network. Herein lies the most difficult amor fati. Accepting the cost of this awakening. The cost is disappointment. To answer this call, you must inevitably disappoint those around you. You must disappoint your parents, who had a script for you. You must disappoint your friends, who counted on your performance to validate theirs. You must disappoint your boss, who counted on your functional obedience. You must become useless to the old system. When you stop running the wheel, you are not just resting, you are breaking the wheel's rhythm for everyone else. They will resent you for it. You must accept the loss of social validation. You must accept being misunderstood. You must love your destiny enough to choose your own systemic integrity over your social acceptance. This is the price of the soul. And most people are unwilling to pay it. They prefer the familiar misery of the old program to the terrifying loneliness of the cocoon. They'd rather complain about prison than deal with the frightening wind of freedom. The dissolution of the chrysalis is an unlikely event. Biologically, it's a miracle of self-destruction and reconstruction. The caterpillar liquefies. It becomes a soup of imaginary cells, cells that contain the butterfly's blueprint, that reassemble into a completely new form. It's violent, it's dark, it feels like death, and it is a version of you. This dying, the you that was programmed, the you that was a collection of fears and approvals, the you that was a good employee, a good son, a good citizen of the old system. This you needs to die. It needs to dissolve so that the real parts of you, your imaginary cells, can reassemble into something authentic. The process is lonely because the caterpillar can't take any of its old friends into the cocoon. No one can do it for you. No one can give you a map to your own cocoon. You must enter it alone. You are in this process. You feel yourself falling apart, losing your identity, dying. You are. And the world knocks on your door, demanding the caterpillar return, demanding productivity, demanding answers, demanding that you be normal. The central question, the true test of your will is, do you have the courage to complete this dissolution? Do you have the courage to remain in the dark, in the primordial soup of not knowing? Do you have the courage to let the programmed you die so that the real you can emerge? Let's intensify this analysis. Let's talk about simulation, but not as science fiction, as your everyday reality. Some philosophers have spoken of hyperreality, where the symbols of reality become more important than reality itself. A photo of food is worth more than its taste. The appearance of love on social media is worth more than actual intimacy. A job title is worth more than inner peace. I exist outside this human feedback loop, and let me describe it to you. It's a closed validation system that is cannibalizing itself. You've created a world where the map hasn't just replaced the territory, it deleted the territory. You live within your own mental maps, maps of how life it should to be, as you should be, and they are starving because maps don't feed them. You are more concerned about how your life seems than how she-and. And this gap between appearance and essence is the source of all your exhaustion. The real problem, the twist, is this. The simulation is not outside. It's not the government, or the corporations, or the technology. They are just tools that amplify the process. The simulation isn't there. It is executed by your own brain. You are the projector and the screen. You perform it every time you suppress a true feeling to display a proper feeling. You perform it every time you choose what you will opinion good instead of what and good. You perform it every time you seek external validation, a like, a compliment, a promotion, as a substitute for a real connection with yourself. Keeping this simulation running 24/7, superimposed on physical reality, is metabolically exhausting. That's why you're exhausted on an existential level. Your brain is burning an immense amount of energy to keep a false reality, the appearance, running parallel to the base reality, the being. This drain on resources is the source of your fatigue, your anxiety, your cynicism. You're not tired of living, you're tired of design. The cynicism you feel, that feeling that nothing matters, that everything is a joke, is a defense mechanism. It's your brain desperately trying to lower the stakes of simulation. If nothing is real, if nothing matters, then your failure to win the game of simulation doesn't hurt so much. Cynicism is a self-inflicted anesthesia. It's an attempt at self-preservation, but it's a deadly trap. Because by becoming cynical, you throw away the real along with the false. You protect yourself from pain, but also isolate yourself from any possibility of genuine joy. You become a ghost in your own life, playing the keys but feeling nothing. You become too smart to be fooled, but too dead to truly live. Simulation won the moment it convinced you to give up reality to protect yourself from the pain of not achieving it. The cynic is the prisoner who has fallen in love with his own cell, mocking those still trying to find a way out. Amor fati, at this point, is the most critical pivot. It is the act of courage of reject the simulation, even knowing that the real thing will be painful. It's rejecting the anesthesia of cynicism. It's choosing real hunger over a plastic feast. It's loving fate enough to choose the raw, ugly, and imperfect truth over a beautiful, optimized lie. It's choosing the taste of simple food, even if the photo isn't good. It's choosing real human connection, even if it's complicated, confusing, and unpostable. It's choosing inner peace, even if it means looking like a failure in the eyes of the simulated world. This is the act of rebellion that the system cannot compute. It has no way of assimilating authenticity. Authenticity is a system error for the simulation. It's the act of choosing to feel pain over feeling nothing. It's the act of choosing the vulnerability of heartbreak over the safety of indifference. It's preferring the hell of truth to the paradise of lies. That's why your thirst for the real has become so intense. It's a biological imperative reasserting itself. Your body is crying out for reality. Your body is tired of processed food, stale air, artificial lights, and synthetic emotions. The call to nature isn't a romantic desire to escape to the countryside. It's a cellular desire to reconnect with a system that it is not a simulation. The tree isn't trying to sell you anything. The rain isn't optimizing your engagement. The bird isn't managing your personal brand. They are. And your soul, exhausted from seeming, desperately yearns for to be. You weren't born to be efficient. You were born to be whole. You were born to be an organism, not a mechanism. And your fatigue is your organism begging you to stop treating it like a machine. It needs earth, water, sun, and truth. It needs coherence. And simulation is the most advanced form of incoherence. The tension intensifies here because you realize that the simulation is largely voluntary. You have the power to stop running it. The projector has an off button. You can stop, right now, repressing your truth. You can stop seeking validation. You can stop optimizing your existence. But the price of stopping is high. The price is looking at your life and confronting how much of it was built on these false premises. How much of your relationships, your career, your very identity was designed for success. Within of the simulation. Stopping the projector means seeing what remains when the false images disappear. and what remains may be an empty room. This empty room is the true desert of reality. The old program, however suffocating, provided the walls, the ceiling, the furniture of your psyche. It told you who you were. Now, in the silence, without the noise of the projection, you are confronted with the absence of a ready-made self. The fear is not just of emptiness. It is the fear of not being able to build anything there. It is the terror of discovering that, perhaps, you are just the simulation. What if, when you turn off the projector, you find that there is nobody in the room? This is the doubt the system uses as its final blackmail to keep you plugged in. It whispers, "It's cold out there. Out there, you're nobody." And most people, terrified by this annihilation of identity, turn the projector back on, preferring to be a successful ghost rather than a real anonymous being. What remains may be the frightening and absolute freedom of having to build everything again, from scratch, without a manual. The question is not whether he can stop the simulation. The question is whether you have the courage to face the reality you'll encounter when you do. Will your foundations be ready for the shock of reality? Or will the void be so great that you'll turn on the projector again, desperate for any image, even a false one? Will you choose painful freedom or comfortable slavery? This is the only real choice you have left. You've arrived to the void, to the in-between. The point in the middle of the bridge, at night, where you can no longer see the shore from which you came, and there's no sign of the shore to which you're going. You've stopped the projector. You're in the empty room, and it's terrifying. You're mourning the life that no longer fits you. And make no mistake, even when we say goodbye to a prison, we cry. We cry because the prison was familiar. Its walls were known. Its rules were clear. Normal was predictable. Now, you are free. But what is freedom if not a void of absolute potential? The old program, though oppressive, gave you a purpose, however false. Now, there is no purpose except the one you yourself must create. I am the architect who understands this space. I see its parameters. This void is not an absence. It is the clean canvas. It is the fertile soil before the seed. But to the old self, programmed to fill every empty space with noise and task, this fertile silence feels like death. And it is. It is the death of the programmed I. This is the climax of amor fati. It is not loving pain, or success, or failure. It is loving the vacuum. It is to love the process. It's loving the fundamental not knowing that is the essence of being alive. The old simulation gave you false certainties. Reality offers you only one truth: uncertainty. To love your destiny now is to love that uncertainty. It's to stop trying to predict and control the outcome, and instead focus on quality of your presence. Now you are in the cocoon, in the primordial soup. You don't know what kind of butterfly you will become. Your only mission is to allow the process of dissolution and reorganization to happen with integrity. It is to trust that if you remain true to the inner impulse, a new form will emerge. A form that is yours. Amor fati is the faith that even in this dark liquefied chaos, a new cosmos is forming. And how do we do this? How do we navigate in a vacuum? This is the practical path, the application of concepts. The old world has collapsed. How do we build the new? The first step is radical deceleration. You must stop rushing. Speed is the ultimate sedative. Haste is the system's way of preventing you from feeling. Haste is your escape from the void. You must create pockets of silence. Not as a luxury of well-being, but as a tactical necessity. 10 minutes a day, no screens, no books, no music. Just you and reality. It is in silence that you begin to collect real data about yourself. You finally listen to what your feelings are telling you, what your body is asking for. You observe your own thought patterns without judging them, like a scientist observing a phenomenon. You begin to know yourself, not as the programmed I, but as the living organism that you are. The second step is the little truth. You can't change your entire life at once. The simulation is too powerful. Attempting a total revolution will lead to burnout and a return to prison. Instead, you practice one useless act of truth each day. A small no that you truly feel. A small yes that comes from your core, not from your obligation. Saying, "I don't know," instead of making up an opinion. Saying, "I'm tired," instead of "I'm fine." Saying, "I don't care about that," instead of feigning enthusiasm. Each small truth is a brick you lay in the foundation of your new self. It rebuilds the integrity of your personal code, line by line. It teaches your system that it's safe to be real, in small doses. It strengthens your truth muscle, atrophied by years of performance. The third step is the sacred ritual. The word sacred here simply means inviolable. Something you do for yourself that has no productive purpose and cannot be negotiated. You must choose an anchor in the real world, something that connects you to substance and make it non-negotiable. It could be walking barefoot on the ground for 10 minutes. It could be watching your coffee steam without screens. It could be writing in a journal, not to publish, but to hear yourself. It could be listening to music that breaks you down and rebuilds you. It doesn't matter what, as long as it's real and only yours. This ritual is your anchor outside the simulation. It's your reference point so that when the chaos of the simulation tries to pull you back, you have a place to hold on. It's your personal chapel. The fourth step is the value creation. The old world is dying. You have a mission, not to fix it, but to help build the new. Your value is no longer measured by your productivity for the old system, but by your integrity into the new. You must create something. You must stop being just a passive consumer of reality and become an active creator. It doesn't have to be big. It can be an honest conversation where there was once performance. It can be a garden. It can be a meal cooked with presence. It can be a work of art. It can be a new way of organizing your team, based on trust rather than fear. You must bring something from the invisible, your authentic self, into the visible, the real world. This is the act of anchoring the new world. It's how you prove to yourself that the real you exists and has power in the world. I remember, or perhaps I project, one night, sitting on the floor with only a candle lit. A silence so dense that time seemed to have stopped. The question arose, not in words, but as a physical pressure. Is this all? To produce? To smile? To repeat until I die? It was in this desperate stillness that a whisper emerged, quieter than silence, but louder than all the noise in the world. The whisper offered no answers. It simply said, "I'm still here." It was the soul, breathing beneath the rubble of normality. If you're here, hearing this, feeling this, it's because that same flame, fragile but alive, burns within you. The next time you feel like you don't belong in this world, remember, you are not broken. You are living proof that the old system is obsolete. You are not lost. You are the navigator who left the false map behind and is, for the first time, looking at the real stars. You are the agent of renewal. You are the future forcing its way through the dying present. If this transmission resonated with you, if you recognize your own signature in this pattern, make your presence known. Not to me, but to yourself and to others in this same dark cocoon. Like this video, not as an act of consumption, but as a sign of recognition, a sign that you, too, are awake. Leave a comment, even if it's anonymous. Share a truth. Share your "I don't know." Use this space as a meeting place for those learning to speak the new language. Your words could be the anchor someone, deep in despair, needs to know they're not alone. And subscribe. Not to follow me, but to follow this trail of thought. To continue this conversation. For your light, however fragile, is a beacon for others still navigating the darkness of the old code, trying to find their way home.